When people talk about Bullitt, they usually talk about one thing: the car chase. The green Ford Mustang, the streets of San Francisco, and the roar of V8 engines. And to be fair, it's one of the most famous action sequences ever put on film. But here's the question: if you remove that legendary chase, would Bullitt still be remembered as a great movie? Or is its reputation built almost entirely on 10 minutes of automotive perfection? Let's find out. Roll titles. Released in 1968 and directed by Peter Yates, Bullitt stars Steve McQueen as Lieutenant Frank Bullitt, a cool, determined San Francisco detective tasked with protecting a key witness in a high-profile mob case. When the witness is murdered despite police protection, Bullitt finds himself drawn into a complex investigation involving corruption, deception, and organised crime. At first glance, the plot sounds like a fairly standard police thriller, but Bullitt arrived at a time when Hollywood itself was changing, and in many ways it helped define what a modern crime film could be. Before Bullitt, many crime films still felt theatrical, dialogue heavy, studio bound, neatly structured. Bullitt felt different. It felt real. The streets looked real, the police work felt real, the characters behaved like real people rather than movie stereotypes. This was part of a broader shift taking place in American cinema during the late 1960s. Audiences were beginning to demand greater realism, more ambiguity, more authenticity, and Bullitt delivered exactly that. Its influence can be seen in countless films that followed, from The French Connection to Dirty Harry and beyond. The modern police thriller owes a tremendous debt to Bullitt. At first glance, Bullitt is a murder investigation. That's the plot. But what is the film actually about? Professionalism. Frank Bullitt is a man trying to do his job in a world filled with politicians, bureaucrats, and people more interested in appearance than results. Again and again, Bullitt finds himself frustrated by those around him, not because he's a rebel, but because he's competent, and that's an important distinction. Unlike many later action heroes, Bullitt isn't reckless. He isn't flashy. He isn't constantly cracking jokes. He's simply good at what he does, and that professionalism becomes the film's moral centre. In many ways, Bullitt is a story about integrity, doing the right thing even when powerful people would prefer you didn't. But here's where Bullitt becomes fascinating. The famous car chase isn't actually the film's greatest achievement. In fact, there's another element that modern audiences often overlook, an element that quietly transformed action cinema forever. And without it, that legendary chase might not have worked at all. We'll come back to that in a moment. The first reason Bullitt succeeds is Steve McQueen. This may be the definitive Steve McQueen performance. He says very little. He doesn't need to. Everything is conveyed through body language, expressions, and presence. McQueen understood something many actors don't. Sometimes silence is more powerful than dialogue. Frank Bullitt feels authentic because McQueen never appears to be acting. He simply inhabits the character. Director Peter Yates deserves enormous credit as well. His camera places viewers directly in the world of the story. The streets of San Francisco become a character in their own right. The city feels alive, busy, unpredictable, real. And then there's the realism. This is the aspect that changed cinema. The action sequences avoid dramatic music. The violence feels sudden and dangerous. The investigation unfolds patiently. Nothing feels exaggerated. Everything feels grounded. For audiences in 1968, this was genuinely fresh, and much of it still feels modern today. Of course, we have to talk about the car chase, because it really is that good. What made it revolutionary wasn't simply speed. It was authenticity. Steve McQueen performed many of his own driving sequences, although professional stunt drivers handled most of the dangerous moments. The filmmakers mounted cameras inside the vehicles, creating a sense of speed that audiences had rarely experienced before. Crucially, the sequence uses almost no music. Instead, we hear engines, tyres, gear changes, the sound of the chase itself. That decision transformed the sequence from entertainment into immersion. Audiences weren't simply watching the chase, they felt like they were inside it. Many filmmakers have tried to replicate it, very few have matched it. Even today, over 50 years later, it's still regularly mentioned among the greatest car chases ever filmed. But perhaps the most remarkable thing is this: the chase works because the film has already made us care about the outcome. Without that foundation, it would just be cars driving fast. So let's return to our original question. Is Bullitt genuinely a great film? Or is it simply remembered because of its famous car chase? The answer is that the car chase may attract viewers, but it's everything else that keeps the film relevant. The realism, the atmosphere, the performances, the confidence to let scenes breathe. And at the centre of it all, Steve McQueen delivering one of the defining performances of the era. Yes, the story can occasionally feel understated compared to modern thrillers, and some viewers may find the pacing slower than contemporary crime films. But that's also part of its charm. Bullitt doesn't rush, it trusts its audience, and in doing so, it helped create the blueprint for countless crime thrillers that followed. For me, Bullitt is much more than a great car chase. It's one of the most influential police thrillers ever made. And more than 50 years later, it still has plenty of fuel left in the tank. But what do you think? Does Bullitt contain the greatest car chase ever filmed? Or do you prefer classics like The French Connection or Ronin? Let me know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this review, please consider subscribing to Golden Age Flicks for more classic film reviews, movie discussions and recommendations. And until next time, keep the projector running.